Balinese is not Indian book. Section 8. Santo Saba works. Academic studies and studies as a discourse in an effort to restore Indonesia's true history. Symbolic meanings of Wayang Kulit performances in Bali. The meaning of Kiwa Tengen philosophy in Balinese Wayang philosophically in Balinese culture it is known as Penjiwa Penangan, or left-right, or Dharma-Adharma, gods and so on. The right, including Penangan Tengen equals right, has a spirit, white spiritual character, white magic puts Dharma, truth, characteristics, believes in God, is humane, loyal, honest and just and protects the truth. Whereas the left one includes Penjiwa Kiwa equals left, has a spirit, character or spirit of black magic is a dharmic, ugly, atheist, cruel, angry, disturbing justice and truth. Whereas those that come out from the top right are as intermediaries, balanced do not tend to the right and do not tend to the left. Sugriwa 1971-224. 2 Black and white magic, which is generally referred to as Revicionist, namely 2 different traits that are always contradicting but will never disappear, one of them and become one in human life. There are men, day and night, both bad and so on. Iwayan Karji said that the concept of Kiwa Lengan, in Balinese culture states, Penjiwa comes from the word Kiwa, left, which means bad, harsh, while Tengen, right, means kindness, subtle and the like. This concept refers to the bipolar principle, 2 poles, which is called RWA binada. Everything has its pros and cons, positives and negatives. Original Dharmic teachings, the teachings of the ancestors of the Indonesian archipelago recorded perfectly in Bali. The visual depiction of this teaching can be seen in the Peleng cloth, which is often attached to statues in Bali. What is meant by Peleng cloth here is black and white plaid cloth, not red and white or any other color. White is a symbol of purity and virtue, while black is a symbol of dirt and evil. In general, Balinese shadow puppets use gamelan music in the form of gender which has a salendro tone. Each Wayang performance generally consists of 4 gender, 2 gender, pengumbang, and 2 gender penjasep. However, several other types of puppets have specificities such as the Ramayana Wayang uses 4 genders, 2 lanong wadan drums, a sengseng, kelanong, kajar, kempur and flute. Wayang Gamba uses gamelan, big flute, kendong, rehab, sengseng, kajar, kelanong, kempur. Wayang Kalonarang uses gamelan, 4 genders, 2 drums, sengseng, kelanong and kempur. The repertoires that are commonly used in puppetry in Bali are Pemunka is the gender percussion when it starts to open the gog, close the gog, is beaten with the palms of the dalong's hands 3 times. Pagunman, when the Wayang figures held a pamaba deliberation, at this time the puppeteer did not sing but said the words asking permission from God. Silir appears when the puppeteer Ki speaks sentences in preparation for deliberation in Kawi. Babaloran finishes singing, it looks Silir Ki the puppeteer uttering the Musyawara puppet which contains what the intention is to hold a deliberation. After the deliberation, the Wayang figures departed to carry out their respective duties. This drum consists of 1. The title chakra, Sepasar B, Abhimanyu, Sakarjinodan for the triangle-eyed right group. Aesthetic value of gender, music, Balinese Wayang. 2. Srikandi, Bhima Krota for the right group with round eyes and the Kaurava group. 3. Patra collapsed for the giants. 4. Lor Loran to issue female night puppets. 5. Support for Durga and Kalika. 6. Mesam for crying. 7. Batel for war. 8. Runda for the second deliberation. 9. Pamempan to put the puppet into the chest. 10. The bride. The position of Sepulgar Wayang in ceremonial performing arts in Bali. Mpu Dalong puppeteer as an intermediary in the Ruwadan Dalong ceremony. Puppelier according to Hinsler, there are 3 kinds, namely 1. The puppeteer by descent. 2. The puppeteer because of a village request or through an intermediary. 3. The puppeteer of his own accord. In general, the first and third types of Dalong are more dominant in the Balinese puppet tradition. A puppeteer is a person who has been Datasbi tortured, so he has the right to complete a series of religious ceremonies in Bali such as Inglukat and so on. Therefore he has the title Mpu Dalong or Mangku Dalong. I made Bandam said that before being allowed to perform a performance, a puppeteer is required to purify himself both physically and mentally in a way called Mawintan. This ceremony is carried out in front of the community and is usually held in a three-heavenly temple in the village where the Dalong was born. The puppeteer also performs a ceremony of magic, marriage with puppets and all the equipment that can foster a spirit of unity between the puppeteer and the puppets, which is why puppet shows are considered performances. Utamang Longgod or having the highest, respectable position. According to Lontar Dharma Pawayangan, a lontar containing the rules for a puppeteer, especially in Bali, states the requirements to become a puppeteer, namely 1. Mastering the Pawayangan Dharma correctly and steadily. 2. Mastering stories and plays to develop a plot or plot. 3. Good at telling stories. Mastering Kawi and Balinese to compose dialogue and monologue is called Nyapulgar. 4. Able to provide wayang depictions through dialogue, formulating appropriate voices for each character. 5. Clever in making tedakasan, or wayang attitude, dance move. 6. Mastering musical accompaniment and puppet songs. 7. A puppeteer must also be able to play gamelan music. 8. Able to make marriage, recite certain verses. 9. Able to play a good kapala as a rhythm. 10. Mastering mysticism to ward off magical powers. 11. Able to create dynamics in wayang performances, such as sadness, joy, humor, horror and so on. Thus a Dalong will able to enliven the roles contained in the show Sugriwa, 1976-39. Bandam, 1993-172. A puppeteer is not only sufficient in technical mastery, but the most important thing is to have mastered physically and spiritually the Dharma puppetry itself. To clarify this description we look at the following quote. Amangku the puppeteer, our daddy Angringgit, who are we Nugraha, where we ring Dharma puppetry. Yan tan we wera, I can't help it. Singa paka batarakala, nimatani hulan wani Angringgit, sakeng panugrahan I sang hyang lc wara. Wera hulan ring Dharma pewa yangan, igde Sorya, 1941-7. Meaning, hi, Mangku Dalong, so you dare to show a puppet, who gives your blessing, Nugraha, do you know about Dharma pewa yangan? If you don't know now you will I eat. Even your majesty Batarakala, who made me dare to show the puppet, because of blessing Nugraha, sang hyang ikwera and I understand the name Dharma Pawayangan. If we look at the above conversation, then a Dalong is not only required to succeed in satisfying the audience's appetite, but more importantly, is his inner connection to God, so that what Mangku Dalong does has, taksu, inner power. Taksu, itself is described as a power which is a gift from the supernatural realm, Sedyawati, 1994-11. Dharma Pawayanagan itself is more likely to be described as spiritual knowledge niskala, than material knowledge scale. The plays used are in accordance with the ceremonies being held, for example the Diwa Yadnya ceremony taking the Mandaragiri play or Samudra Mantra and Semaradana, the Pitra Yadnya ceremony taking the plays of Bhima Swarga and Sudamala. The Rezi Yadnya ceremony uses the Sapta Rezi play, while the Buddha Yadnya ceremony uses the Bhima Dadi Karu play. The play that will be discussed is Sapulgar's play because it is related to this research. It is told after Batara Siwa had two children, namely Batara Kala and Batara Kumara, both of whom were born in Wayang Wuku. Batara Kala had received an order from Lord Shiva to devour everyone born in Wuku Wayang Tumpak Wayang. Finally his younger brother, Kumara, was born in Wayang Wuku, so that Batara Kala immediately wanted to eat it, but Shiva always had reason. The meaning of Wayang Sapulgar relates to Dharma teachings. The play in the Wayang Lemma, Sapulgar performance came to an end. Feeling annoyed with Lord Shiva, Batara Kala chased his younger brother wherever Kumara ran. Arrived at a Wayang performance, where the puppeteer was playing a puppet when Kumara hid in the puppet's gender Palawa, while waiting for his younger brother to appear, Batara Kala accidentally ate the puppeteer's offerings. Based on this, the puppeteer asks Batara Kala while asking for the offerings that Batara will eat when he is replaced. That's when Batara Kala gives advice to the puppeteer. If someone is born in Wuku Wayang, the puppeteer has the right to merawat the baby and Batara's replacement. will not prey on the baby as long as it is served the offerings like what the puppeteer did at that time. Since then, the Naguatakan ceremony is always held for babies born in Wuku Wayang or Tumpak Wayang, interview with the puppeteer. Besides that, the myth according to the version of the puppeteer Ida made Rai Sogata, is this: Sanghyang Kumar, who was born in Wayang week, is considered appropriate by Batara Kala to be eaten according to the permission given by Shiva. Whereas Kumara and Kala are actually brothers, because they are both sons of Shiva. One afternoon, Kala was about to catch Kumara when suddenly Shiva and Dui Uma appeared in the form of a pair of farmers riding oxen. Knowing what his son, Kala, was doing, Shiva made a point by asking him to do riddles. Meanwhile, Kumara tried to save himself by running into a yard of a person who happened to be holding a puppet show. Then he hid by entering into the resonator hole of the gender Wayang Gamelan. After noticing that Kumara had disappeared, Kala angrily went off to look for him. Although he made it to the yard where the puppet show was held, he could not find what he was looking for. Finally, because of the unbearable feeling of anger and hunger, all the offerings that were being held in connection with the puppet show were eaten. Then, as the puppeteer's reaction, actually none other than Shiva himself, he told Kala that the offerings he had eaten were of the same value as the Kumara meat that was being chased. Therefore, if he no longer had the right to eat Kumara, his own sister. From a macro perspective, Balinese culture is part of Indonesian culture. On a micro level, Balinese culture consists of various variations, but these variations are still a cultural unity which is strengthened by the existence of a unity of language and religion. Essentially, the structure of Balinese culture is built by the expressive cultural configuration of Wayang Sepulgar's ritual value, the dominance of solidarity, aesthetic and religious values. Balinese culture is a culture that lives and is developed because it has a very basic function to fulfill the needs of the Balinese in supporting their existence as a social, aesthetic, economic, adaptive, and religious human being. Religious value in human life can be seen in terms of 1. Worship as an activity of worshipping God or God. 2. Confirmation as the legalization of an activity in a religious society. 3. Brotherhood, namely the existence of a relationship of brotherhood among religious communities. 4. Assurance is believing that everything in this world was created and arranged by God. 5. Hope, that is, there is a feeling of optimism that doing religious activities will be rewarded by those in worship. Butler, 1951-33. The Balinese people, when viewed from the above opinion, show that their activities in the religious field such as worshipping gods are a manifestation of acts of worship. All activities of Balinese people are confirmed through ceremonies in religious communities. In carrying out the Buddha Yajna ceremony, it cannot be separated from the bonds of brotherhood, so that the ceremony can be held well. The implementation of the Buddha Yajna ceremony is a manifestation of a deep sense of devotion to God, and the goal that the Balinese people want to achieve in carrying out the Buddha Yajna ceremony is to achieve a harmonious relationship between humans and humans, humans with their environment and humans with God. The importance of religion in a society is closely related to behavior and morals in the interaction of society itself. The presence of religion in Balinese society is due to the great adherence and dedication to the teachings of the religion it adheres to. Peter Salim in the Contemporary English Indonesian Dictionary defines religion as piety, adherence to religion and great devotion to religion. Sally Peter, 1991-1620-1621. Religiousness arises from human nature which are expressed in the form of ritual behavior and moral discipline which have an impact on controlling egoism. The Balinese people carry out the Manusai Yajna ceremony, in this case doing ruwatan as a manifestation of their devotion in carrying out the religious teachings they adhere to, showing religious behavior. This is reflected in the Pemalaspasan ceremony of everything that will be used as worship before the offering ceremony is held. The Pemalaspasan ceremony aims to attach magical religious values to the means of the ceremony before being offered. The ceremonial facilities and infrastructure after the Pemalaspa ceremony are no longer considered ordinary objects like other objects, but already contain magical religious values which are considered as sacred objects for a means of asking for safety in carrying out life harmony. In the book Chandogya Upanishad, which is a divine philosophy explaining the relationship between Brahman, God, and Atman, human soul, it is mentioned by the term Sarva Idam Kalu Brahman, which means that everything that exists is none other than Brahman, God, Sadhya, 1982-14. The belief in the existence of God is what encourages humans to carry out religious things in order to achieve mental stability, which in this case the Balinese people carry out their Panka Yadnya as their real form. But in this research, Lanya discusses the Manusa Yadnya Engruwat ceremony or sweeping lege. Wayang, if traced from its very long history, also reveals that the birth of Wayang Kulit originated from the worship ceremony of the ancestors. According to Sri Muljono in his book, Wayang, Origin, Philosophy and Its Future, stated that the Wayang theatre was originally a ceremony related to the belief to worship young. This ceremony was performed by a medium, which was later called a shaman, or was carried out by the head of the family himself. In the next period of time, this work was carried out by a person with special expertise who is now known as the puppeteer. The ceremony is intended to call or relate to the spirits of the ancestors to ask for their help and blessings when the family is about to start or have completed a task. Rhoda, 1992-2. In its latest development, various types of leather puppet shows were born in Bali, from sacred to secular ones. According to a local literature expert, Bali, namely Wayan Simpan, A.B., the types of Balinese shadow puppet shows can be grouped based on their respective functions as follows. A. Wayang Sapulgar. B. Weak puppets. C. Sudamala puppets. And D. Ordinary puppets or entertainment, Listibaya Bali, 1974-4. Each of these four groups has an element of rites that is not exactly the same as the other. This is related to their respective functions. Wayang Sapulgar, Samarana, as mentioned above, is a Parwa shadow puppet show which is sacred for the Manusa Yadnya ceremony. This show is staged in the Manusa Yadnya ceremony. This performance is intended for children born in the Wuku week, Wayang, namely the 27th week according to the Balinese calendar, which consists of 210 days, especially those born exactly on Saturday, Klawan Wuku Wayang Tumpak Wayang. The aim is to eliminate or prevent the misfortune that might befall the child in question from the bad influence contamination of Wuku Wayang. This tradition is still very strong for families in Bali, because they really believe in what is contained in the Lontar Sapu Lege. According to the contents of the Sapu Lege Lontar, Lord Shiva gave permission to Sang Batara Kala to prey on children born in the Wayang Wuku week, Edda, 1974-7. Wayang Sapu Lege can only be performed by a puppeteer who has been purified and has understood the contents of the Dharma puppet Lontar in addition to the Sapu Lege Lontar, as well as the self-sacralization mantras and offerings, and mastering several Dawastawa which are related to making holy water Pangruatan. In this task, the puppeteer has the title Ki Mengku Dalong or the Umpu Lege. Through his performance, Ki Mengku Dalong recites the self-sacralization mantram, offers offerings and chants his gods to get the blessing of the gods, especially from Lord Shiva in making Pangruatan holy water for people who are celebrated for being born in Wuku Wayang, so that they can avoid disturbance. Game Patera. Kala Listibaya Daira Bali, 1974-7. According to the puppeteer I made Sija, in carrying out the Sapu Lege puppet, after the performance, 3 puppets were taken, namely the single Sanghyang Siwa and Malan Twalan, and then all the offerings related to the Sapu Lege ceremony were made with mantras. Certain. After completing all the ceremonies, the 3 puppet stalks were dipped in a lamp, Blenkong, to obtain the oil, which was then mixed with holy water, Sukla, to be given to the person being celebrated, Sika, 1986-11. From the descriptions of each type of Wayang Kulit that have been described above, it is clear that each type of shadow puppet show is always accompanied by a religious site in the form of certain offerings and worship mantras. What is even more special is that the first 3 types, namely Wayang Sapu Lege, Wayang Lema, Wayang Sudamala, are not only accompanied by the ritual ceremony but are even an important part of the ceremony performed. Thus the elements of religious rites in Balinese shadow puppet shows are very dominant. Coupled with the authentic evidence of the use of the word Wayang as the name of one of the Wayang Wuku, which is the 27th Wuku of the 30 existing Wuku. This clearly shows that wayang is an integral part of the religious life of Balinese people. For more details on the ceremonial aspects of the Sepulgar wayang performance above, we will cite the types of ceremonies used in the Sepulgar puppet performance as part of the Pengruwatan or Nyapu Lajay ceremony as follows. Mala puppet Sampun 3 Luire. Suki Asoro Malam Duck White. Ajuman, Kanang Gantal Modajing Jina Kespeha Satis Jina Perforated. Santan Geed Ro Pat. Medajing Jina 1132 Fields. Still Ring Arepan Dalanj. Sampun Kumawis Payak Medajing Toya Medatakan Wanchi. Tour Sampun Medajing Sakar beside Breestus 11 colors. Pupit Upakaran Wayang Kadi Ring Arep. That is the type of ceremony used in a Engruwat or Nyapulgar ceremony. Of course, at any time someone uses the main concept, Madhya and Nista. However, in general, what is stated in the above quotation is the offerings which generally apply. After knowing the type of offering used, then the following will be quoted regarding the procedure for treatment or Nyapulgar and the mantra as follows. Dalong Raris Ninkanang Jagi Makar Yes Toya Panyapulager. Based on the results of the discussion above, there are several things that need to be underlined that can be drawn as a conclusion. The matters referred to are as follows. 1. Art and religion in Bali in particular can be said to be like currency. Although they have two dimensions, they have a unity that cannot be separated from one another. This is not only today, but the tradition of wayang performance has been proven centuries ago, both in inscriptions and in other written traditions. Therefore, the shadow puppet show in Bali is related to the Upadaka system adopted in Balinese religion, especially the art of wayang performance, which is linked to the human life cycle. 2. One of the wayang performance arts that is very thick with the values of the human life cycle that has been mentioned above is the Sepulgar puppet. Wayang Sepulgar is related to the Balinese calendar calculation system, authority, how a person interprets his life based on the system of good days and bad days in the birth of a human child. The abstinence in birth is what is called in Bali with the term lekad in Tumpak Wayang as an indication that someone needs to perform the ritual. 3. Behind the Sepulgar puppet show, it turns out that it is full of religious values contained in it. This disclosure of the meaning behind it requires an analysis to reveal the values of Balinese religious teachings in various aspects such as symbolic values, philosophy, art or aesthetics, ceremonies, mythology, magical value and so on. Finally, of course, the expression of these values will not be able to provide practical value if we do not reflect in our minds the nature of the supreme power symbolized by the figures of immaturity in the Sepulgar wayang performance. Malan or Tualan, Hyong Aji Samar. In the puppet story we know an advisory figure from King Sri Krishna, people call him Sang Tualan Malan. In our minds we ask, why did Sang Tualan become an advisor to King Krishna when King Krishna was Avatara Vishnu? Kyailura Samar Badranaya is the name of the most prominent Panakawan figure in Javanese and Sundanese wayang. This character is said to be the nurturer and advisor of the knights in the performance of the Mahabharata and Ramayana stories. Of course, the name Samar is not found in the original Sanskrit text of both epics, because this figure is an original creation of a Javanese poet. Other names Samar: Saransari, He Hedman Badranaya, Nayantaka, Puntaprasanta, Bojagati, Wangboga Sampir, Izamaya, Malan, Tualan. When Penka Pandavas exiled themselves to the pedestal, the base they reached was the base of Java, because it was told that at that time all the islands were still united. Evidence from Penka Pandava came to the base of Java, namely Bhima married a giant named Diadimbi and was born Gatot Kaka. Also Arjuna meditated on a mountain which is now known as Mount Arjuna in Java, and because at that time there were so many giants that disturbed Arjuna in his tapanya, then 4 clerks were sent down by Ida Bhattara Hyang Siwa Pasupati to guard Arjuna. In his hermitage Arjuna was given a magic arrow by Hyang Siwa Pasupati. Samar is also a god who overcomes all gods and gods who have become humans. Samar also later became the guardian of the Pandavas and other major knights who were invincible. Malan or Tualan, Hyang Aji Samar. Samar in Bali is known as Tualan, Petruk is Merda, Gareng is Sangat and Bagong is Delam. Samar is a civil servant who is lonely, busy with Nawe. Lonely with intentions, diligent at work. Samar carries a constructive nature and carries out Hyang Witi's orders for the welfare of mankind in this universe. Tuelen was a clerk who was respected and loved by many kings and gods. Tuelen has a simple appearance like ordinary people, even as a servant of the king because he is a servant of mankind to achieve justice and truth on earth. It cannot be denied that from the story of Arjuna meditating in Java, Samar appeared in this world as the guardian of kings or the leader of the whole world. Samar was then given the title Sada Siwa by Hyang Siwa Pasupati, or in Dharma teachings also known as Sang Hyang Isamaya and Manak Maya. Another title, he is Sabda Palone. Samar has the character patient, honest, friendly, likes humor. After coming down from heaven he became a servant Panakawan who always gave guidance to the knights. At that time in heaven he was a handsome man, but after becoming Samar, and down to the Arkapada world, his body became fat, short, and had a funny face because his eyes were always watery. Maya is a black light. The black light is to disguise everything. What is there is not really there. What really is there is not. What you don't think is yes. The one who wants excited his heart, lost his charm, enthusiasm, for fear of being mistaken. Maya, or Isamaya, black light, also called Samar, means obscure, or unclear. According to historian Professor Dr. Slamet Mulyana, the character of Samar was first found in the literary work of the Majapahit Empire entitled Sudamala. Apart from being in the form of Kakawin, Sudamala's story is also carved as a relief in Suku Temple. Suku Temple is a temple complex located in Karanganyar Regency, the former residency of Surakarta, Central Java. Samar is told as the servant or servant of the main character of the story, namely Sahadeva from the Pandava family. Of course, Samar's role was not only as a follower, but also as a humor launcher to break the tense atmosphere. In subsequent developments, Samar's degree was increasing again. Javanese poets in their literary works tell that Samar was not just an ordinary commoner, but also the incarnation of Batara Isamaya, the older brother of Batara Guru, the king of the gods. There are several versions about the birth or origin of Samar. But all of them call this character an incarnation of a god. In the Fiber Kanda script, it is said that the ruler of heaven named Sanghyang Narasa has two sons named Sanghyang Tungal and Sanghyang Wenong. Because Sanghyang Tungal had an ugly face, the throne of heaven was inherited from Sanghyang Wenong. From Sanghyang Wenong then passed on to his son. History of Malan or Tualan, Hyang Aji Samar. The origin of Malan or Tualan, Hyang Aji Samar, named Batara Guru. Sanghyang Tungal later became the caregiver for the knights of Batara Guru descent, under the name Samar. In the Paramayoga script, Sanghyang Tungal is the son of Sanghyang Wenong. Sanghyang Tungal then married Dui Rakti, a daughter of a king crab genie named Sanghyang Yuyut. From this marriage, a pearl in the form of an egg was born which later turned into two men. Both are each given the name Isamaya for black-skinned people, and Manikmaya for white people. Isamaya feels inferior, which makes Sanghyang Tungal less pleased. The throne of heaven was inherited by Manikmaya, who later had the title Batara Guru. Meanwhile Isamaya was only given a position as the ruler of the Sunyaruri universe, or the residence of the spirits. Isamaya's eldest son, Batara Wungkuham, has a rounded son named Jangan Smarasanta, or abbreviated as Samar. He became the caregiver of the Batara Guru descent named Rezi Manumanasa and continued to his grandchildren. In special circumstances, Isamaya can possess Samar so that Samar becomes a figure that is very feared, even by the gods. So according to this version, Samar is the grandson of Isamaya. Samar or Isamaya, given several titles, namely, Batara Samar, Batara Isamaya, Batara Iswara, Batara Samara, Sanghyang Jagad Wungku, Sanghyang Jadiwasesa, Sanghyang Suryakanta. He was ordered to control the Sunyaruri realm, or the empty realm, not allowed to control humans in the world realm. In the Sunyaruri universe, Batara Samar was matched with Dui Sangani, the daughter of Sanghyang Henning. From the results of their marriage, 10 children were born, namely, Batara Wungkuam or Sanghyang Bangkokan, Batara Siwa, Batara Rahaspati, Batara Yamadipati, Batara Surya, Batara Kandra, Batara Quera, Batara Tambaru, Batara Kamajaya and Dui Sarmanazati. In the Purwakarta script, Sanghyang Tunggal has 4 sons named Batara Puga, Batara Pungang, Batara Manan, and Batara Samba. One day there was news that the throne of heaven would be inherited by Samba. This made his 3 brothers jealous. Samba was kidnapped and tortured to be killed. However, their father found out about this act. Sanghyang Tunggal also cursed his 3 sons to become ugly. Puga changed his name to Tagag while Pungang became Samar. Both of them were sent to the world as caregivers for the descendants of Samba, who later took the title of Batara Guru. Meanwhile, Manan received forgiveness because he just followed suit. Manan then had the title Batara Narada and was appointed as Batara Guru's advisor. In the Purwakarta script, Sanghyang Tunggal is married to Dwi Rakatawati, the son of Sanghyang Rakatatama. From this marriage was born a luminous egg. Sanghyang Tunggal with annoyance slammed the egg so that it broke into 3 parts, namely shell, white, and egg yolk. The 3 of them each transformed into men. What comes from the shell is given the name Antaga, which comes from the egg white is named Isamaya, while what comes from the yolk is named Manak Maya. One day Antaga and Isamaya clashed because each of them wanted to be the heir to the throne of heaven. The 2 of them also held a mountain swallowing competition. Antaga tried to devour the mountain in one swallow but got into an accident. His mouth was torn and his eyes widened. Isamaya uses another method, namely by eating the mountain little by little. After passing for several days, all parts of the mountain moved into Isamaya's body, but he was unable to get it out. As a result, since then Isamaya has been round. Sanghyang Tunggal was angry at the ambition and greed of his 2 sons. They were also sentenced to become caretakers of the Manikmaya descendants, who were later appointed as kings of heaven, with the title Batara Guru. Antaga and Isamaya came down to the world. Each of them uses the name Tagag and Samar. In the land of Java, Sang Tualan is called Hyang Samar or also called Bagawan Ismoyo. Hyang Samar is highly respected and upheld because of his great advices which are also performed through Javanese Wayang Kulit performances. Even in their daily life, Javanese people who are Javanese have great respect and sacredness for Hyang Samar, even though his physical form is like that. According to Ida, who was assigned by the caretaker of the Jaya Katwang Palace in Madian, Hyang Samar was called Hyang Kaki and he also called Hyang Samar as Bagawan Manu or the first Avatara who came down to the world who took the form of a human or the first human on this earth. So according to Ida's interpretation, Hyang Samar in the Balinese puppet known as Malan, is an Avatara where according to the Veda book he is the 5th Avatara and takes human form, the first human on earth. We have known Avatara who have come to earth as following. 1. Matsya Avatara takes the form of a fish. 2. Dates Avatara takes the form of Empas, resembles a turtle. 3. Waraha Avatara took the form of a boar. 4. Narasimha Avatara takes the form of a lion-headed man. 5. Bagawan Wamena Avatara, Bagawan Manu, Hyang Samar, the first man on earth. 6. Parasurama Avatara, taking the form of a giant human. 7. Rama Avatara. 8. Krishna Avatara. 9. Buddha Avatara. 10. This 10th Avatara is thought to have taken the form of a Kalki. His Hiranyakasipu took the form of a Danawa or giant and was killed by Narasimhamurti, and after Hiranyakasipu was defeated by Narasimhamurti, the Danavas, giants hid in the Pedala realm. At that time the gods and the Danavas always fought, and Hiranyakasipu always broke into the Swarga Loka Abrak. With this incident God sent Narasimhamurti down to earth to be able to defeat Hiranyakasipu and the Danavas. It is said, the next Avatara is Bagawan Wamena, Bagawan Manu. Hyang Samar is the first human Avatara who was born in the Soma River Valley, which may now be called the Bengawan Solo River. Even these ancient sites are found in the Soma, Solo River Valley. With Avatara 1 taking the form of a human, it is said that he is the first human on earth, and the giant is different from humans, even though his form is the same. In his Wayang, Bagawan Samar, always a caretaker and protector of the descendants of Rsi Palasara, Sentanu. What the holy men tell about in the holy book has some truth, as well as the results of research by scientists who state that the archipelago is unified into a continent is also true. Based on the stories of the Wiccan people, the age of this earth has not yet been able to predict by experts. Definitely. But we are quite proud, based in the Wiccan people's Dharma Wicana, that world civilization is said to have originated from the previous Indonesian archipelago. In fact, India says its civilization is still late. You can take for example the names found in the Ramayana and Mahabharata. It seems that world civilization started from the Indonesian archipelago. In the Sangir area in the Soma River Valley, Bengawan Solo, these ancient human fossils have been found. One of the historical evidence, C. Singh, a Tibetan priest, also said that Otis's hermitage was in Bali, which was located on the edge of Tamblingan Lake. Tibetan priest, this person really loves Bali because his ancestors studied in Bali in ancient times. The Maurya dynasty also recognized that the Maurya people studied in Bali, so the teachings of Hinduism in Bali are different from the Veda, the Tripitaka. Ancient wise people called their religion the guardian religion. In the 17th century, Mark Miller found that the Vedic civilization lived in the river Sindhu, so he called this religion Hinduism, because our president at that time Soekarno wanted to recognize the religions that exist in Indonesia and have name, hence the Hindu name used. If ordered from the first Avathara connected with the division of ages are as follows. Matsya, Manu's story, Kurma, screening of Mount Mandara, Waraha, Great Rhino, Big Pig, Sri Narasimha, Hiranyakasipu, Prahlada, Wamana, RSI Dwarf, highly knowledgeable midget, are the Kirthayuga, Satyayuga, age of Parasurama, the arbitrary Paraxatrian destroyer authorized armed with an axe. Rama, Dasaratha, Ramayana, is the age of Tretayuga Krishna, King Vrisni Mahabharata. Buddha, son of King Kapilavastu, was the Dvaparayuga era and the Buddhist medieval era. Starting from the coronation of King Parakazit, the last Astina dynasty, until now waiting for Kalki Awatara, who will appear at the end of the Kali Yuga era, is the Kali Yuga era. It seems that we will continue. Later we will recount the era of Narasimha, Prahlada, and it is said that the king Wali, Bali, is a descendant of Prahlada. In one of the intact temples in Kediri, and the Po Sarong inscription written by Hyang Bharata in a large rock using the Pali letters which emphasize the inscription, let us not forget the teachings of Shiva. The location of this inscription is in the middle of a river, to the left of the rice fields and far from residential areas. Tualan, Samar in Nusantara is the Dang Hyang of the archipelago, the ancestor of the Indonesian archipelago. He is millions of years old and lives eternal or moksha. Once he slept for 500 years and every time he woke up there must be a kingdom or belief in conflict. Tualan is also the head of the Karang Dempel village. Karang means arid. Dempel means strength of the soul. Her hair is curled up. Her hair tells mankind. Accounting the Kunkung means, I am the personality of the servant of mankind. His cloth is named Parangkusumaroho, which means the embodiment of Dewangawanta. Guide mankind in order to reach Memayuhayuning Bawano. Which means, the occurrence of justice and truth on earth. So actually Samar is almost the same job as Mrs. Dewey Kwan Im, that is, if mankind has not yet reached happiness, then she will not go to the realm of Nirvana or the realm of Shiva Buddha. The Javanese calligraphy image means, Bojo Sira Arsa Mardi Kamardikan, Ajwa Samar Sumingkaring Dur Kamerkan Mardika. It means, freedom of soul and spirit. That is, in a state not colonized by lust and worldliness, so that in the path of perfect death, sin will not be tainted. The true Javanese man in cleansing the soul. Ora Kabanda ing Kadanyan, Ora Samar Marang Bisan vanishing your wrath means, in testing one's character will seriously be able to control and direct lust to become a force towards perfection of life. So mankind is guided by Tualan to escape all suffering and attain moksha. Tualan is a symbol of magical Engelmu or a symbol of the supernatural. Starch baking powder. He will never die because he has reached perfection. So a short story about Tualan, Hyang Samar, or the ancestors of the Indonesian archipelago, or the Dong Hyang of the archipelago, is the one who has the duty to unite the people from spiritual problems. Punakawan pair in central Javanese puppetry, Samar is always accompanied by his children, namely Garang, Petruk, and Bagong. However, the three of them are not Samar's biological children. Garang is the son of a priest who suffers a curse and is freed by Samar. Petruk is the son of a king of the Gandharva nation. Meanwhile, Bagong was created from Samar's shadow thanks to the powerful words of Rezi Manumanasa. Samar Pralambang Engelmu Gabe Kasamprananang Starch. In Sundanese puppetry, The order of Samar's children is Sepet, Dewala, and Garang. Meanwhile, in the East Javanese puppet show, Samar is only accompanied by one child, named Bagong, who also has a child named Basut. Tualan equals Old Len, different parents, or Malan is one of the figures of the Punakawan, Balinese Parakon, in the Balinese Wayang tradition. The character is similar to Samar in Javanese puppetry. In the Balinese Wayang tradition, Tualan is described as an old man with an ugly face, black skin, but behind his appearance, his heart is noble, he has good behavior, knows good manners, and likes to give wise advice. In the Balinese puppet tradition in general, Tualan has a child named Merda. In addition, there are other clerks, namely Delam and Sangat. The four of them, including Tualan, are very well-known clown servants among Balinese people. All have special characters that represent human nature. There is also a connection with the existence of the chess relative Kanda Pat. Panakawan. Pana means to know, friend means friend. Panakawan means knowing what to do when accompanying his master, employer, in a state of joy and sorrow, full of trials and temptations to lead to glory. Samar in Javanese philosophy, is called Badranaya Bibadra equals building facilities from the foundation Naya equals Nayaka equals messenger Mangrasal. Meaning, carrying the nature of building and carrying out God's commands, Hyang Jagatkarana, for human welfare. Javanology. Samar equals Haseming vaguely literal. The guide to the meaning of life. Samar is neither male nor female, his right hand is upward and his left hand is back. The meaning. As a person, the Samar character wants to say the symbol of the Supreme Being. While his left hand means total and absolute surrender as well as a neutral but sympathetic scientific symbol. The domicile of Semarang is the head of the Karang Dempel village. Karang equals barren, Dempel equals strength of the soul. Samar hair. Kunkung. Jarwadasa, ancient Javanese proverb, means to say, accounting the kunkung equals as a servant's personality. Samar as a servant manifests to serve the people, without being selfish, to carry out Amalaya worship in accordance with the divine word. Samar walking facing upwards means, in the journey of a human being, he gives an example to always look up, the Pasupati, who is all-hearted and compassionate to the people. Parangkusumaroho Samar cloth. The embodiment of Dewangawanta, to guide humans, in order to memayuhayuning bawano, upholding justice and truth on earth. Samar has a very unique physical form, as if it is a symbol of the depiction of the universe. Its round body is a symbol of the earth, where mankind and other creatures live. Tualan, Malan, Samar always smile, but have swollen eyes. This depiction is a symbol of joy and sorrow. His face is old but his hair is cut like a child, as a symbol of old and young. He is male, but have breasts like women, as a symbol of men and women. He was the incarnation of a god but lived as a commoner, as a symbol of superiors and subordinates. Physical form Malan or Tualan, Hyang Aji Samar. Samar has a very unique physical form, as if he is a symbol of the description of the universe. Its round body is a symbol of the earth, where mankind and other creatures live. Samar has the profile of standing at the same time as squatting. Samar never orders him but gives consequences for his advice. In the puppet story, Samar is the son of Sanghyang Wisaza. He is given the gift of Mustika Manik Astagina, which has 8 powers, namely 1. Never go hungry. 2. Never sleepy. 3. Never fall in love. 4. Never be sad. 5. Never feel tired. 6. Never get sick. 7. Never get too hot. 8. Never get cold. The 8 forces are tied to the hair at the crown or head. Javanese culture has given birth to religion in the form of belief in God Almighty, namely the form of the Samar puppet character, long before the introduction of Hindu, Buddhist and Islamic cultures in Java. In Javanese spiritual circles, the Samar Wayang figure is seen not as a historical fact, but more mythological and symbolic about the one, namely, a symbol of the embodiment of expression, perception and understanding of the divine which shows the spiritual conception. This understanding is nothing but strong evidence that the Javanese since prehistoric times were religious and have one and only Godhead. From the figure of Samar, the puppet will be able to be explored, understood and lived up to the extent to which the religious form that has been born by Javanese culture. Samar is a puppet character created by local poets. Even though his status is only as a servant, his nobility is equal to that of King Kresna in the Mahabharata story. If in the Bharatayuddha war, the advisor of the Pandavas was only Kresna, then in the puppet, the number was increased to 2, and the other was Samar. The specialty of Malan or Tualan, Hyang Aji Samar, Samar in literary works is only shown as the caregiver for the descendants of Rezi Manumanasa, especially the Pandavas who are the main characters of the Mahabharata story. However, in the puppet show with the theme of Ramayana, the puppeteers also used to present Samar as the caretaker of Sri Rama's family or Sugriva. It is as if Samar always appears in every Wayang performance, no matter what title is being narrated. In the puppet show, Samar acts as the caregiver for the knights, while Tagog Delam is the caregiver for the giants. It is certain that Samar's foster children can always beat Tagog's foster children. This is actually a mere symbol. Samar is a picture of the fusion of the little people as well as the gods of heaven. So, if the governments, symbolized as the knights of Samar's care, listen to the voice of the little people who were like God's voice, then the country they led would definitely be a superior and peaceful country. Kanda Pat is Panakawan, 5 Panzer is Kshatriya. Panzer position is in the middle, flanked by 4 brothers. Kanda Pat's knowledge was born from the concept of awareness of the beginning of human creation and the ultimate goal of human life, Senkan Paranang Dumadi, Moksha. That's the original Dharmic teaching. Humans were created in the beginning from the moments before birth. Before the baby, in this context is the Panzer, is born from the mother's womb. What appears first is the mother's anxiety. This anxiety is called Kakang Mabarip. Then just before the baby is born, a clear liquid or Banu crater will come out as a lubricant, to protect the baby, so that the birth process is smooth and the baby's soft skin is not scuffed or injured. Banu crater is called Kakang crater. After the baby is born, it will be followed by the discharge of the placenta and blood. Ari Ari is called Adi Ari Ari and blood is called Adi Wurajal. Kanda Pat's science emphasizes that humans are not born into this world alone. There are 4 brothers who accompany him. Panzer is true Suksma and Sejulur Papat is true Raga. The union of true Suksma and true body gives birth to a life. The relationship between Kanda Pat in life is depicted with a coachman controlling a chariot, pulled by 4 horses, which are red, black, yellow and white. The train driver symbolizes the freedom to decide and do something. The red horse symbolizes energy, passion, the black horse symbolizes biological needs, the yellow horse represents spiritual needs and the white horse symbolizes silence, purity. As a coachman, of course, it is not easy to control 4 horses with different characteristics and needs. If the coachman is able to control and cooperate with the 4 horses properly and in balance, then the train will run smoothly until it reaches its final destination. Sang Senkan Paranang Dumadi. Malan or Tualan, Hyang Aji Samar, symbolization of a knight and his 4 servants, similar to Engelmu, Sejulur Papat Lima Panzer, or in Balinese literature it is called Kanda Pat. Continues to section 9. By Santo Saba.